Get Rich Education is brought to you by Norada Real Estate, the real asset investor, and Mid-South home buyers.
Welcome to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold, giving you information and ideas on the investment that has turned more ordinary people into millionaires and billionaires than anything else, and can provide you with more wealth and happiness than you ever thought possible. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, and educator, Keith Weinhold.
Here we go. Hey, welcome to Get Rich Education, episode 121. I'm Keith Weinhold. We're going to talk about your money mindset today. Is the way that you think about money holding you back from obtaining wealth? What is your personal money operating system? A great guest and I are going to discuss this in a bit. But first, yes, I'm back in the United States today after a long foreign trip, and we've got rising mortgage interest rates here in the U.S. That's really something that's been happening since late last year, and well, a lot of people thought rates would be substantially higher than where they are now. People thought they were going to spike up 5 years ago, and they hadn't, and people have just been waiting and waiting and waiting for them to go up. If you bought your cash flowing income property with long-term fixed interest rate debt already, then that's great. Congratulations, you've locked in your rate, and hopefully you've locked it in for 30 years. If you think rates are going to continue to rise, well, you want to buy before they go up too high, of course. The Fed has raised the federal funds target rate each of the last 2 Decembers, a quarter point each time. And like I've said before, that rate doesn't directly affect long-term mortgage rates, but there is that loose correlation. And some economists predict 2 or 3 or even 4 more such rate hikes that are going to happen just this year. We'll see. That can hurt your profitability on new buys, of course, as you're paying a higher cost of capital in the form of a higher interest rate. Okay, that would squeeze your arbitrage. But consider, too, just think about what your customer wants. Think about how your customer's thinking. Okay, as an income property investor, you're effectively a business owner. And as a business owner, you serve a customer known as a tenant, just like Apple serves their customer base of iPhone users or Tesla serves their customer base of consumer drivers. Think about your customer, your tenant. In fact, I often want you to think how your tenant thinks. Get inside their mind. Think about what they want. I like you to think about how your tenant thinks, just like a successful consumer company thinks about what their customer wants. So with that in mind, consider what else happens when mortgage interest rates rise. That means that renters that are right on the edge of being able to qualify to buy a home now, well, a higher rate, that means that they'd have to make higher mortgage payments if they want to buy. And that keeps renters as renters because that affordability bar just got nudged a little higher for that renter that's an aspiring homeowner. And think, too, those renters of yours, that group that's right on the edge of buying, well, they tend to be your better, more responsible tenants. And they're the ones that might now just have to stay put in your property. So, yeah, higher mortgage rates can increase demand for your rentals because suddenly would-be home buyers run into affordability trouble. So, as an income property owner, you kind of have both a positive and a negative force there at the same time with higher interest rates. And of course, interest rates are still historically super low. By the way, my favorite resource for keeping track of mortgage interest rates is mortgagenewsdaily.com. That's in the show notes for you. They have both cutting edge news of the day, and then you can also click around over there as they have some really good historical charts for the rates on all the major loan types and more. That includes how you can see, for example, that in 1981, 30-year fixed mortgage rates were 18.5%. Yes, 18.5%. So that gives you an appreciation now for how you can get a rate of 5% or less and lock in that rate until the year 2047. You get that context and an appreciation for the opportunity that you have now. Well, let's talk about your money mindset, and we'll also talk about how men and women invest differently with our guest. Today's guest is the founder of Hilary Hendershott Wealth Management, a leading financial advisory firm for women. Her mission is to motivate women to be financially empowered. She has worked for more than 15 years with women who want to preserve their wealth, make it grow, and eliminate financial stress once and for all. She's also the host of Profit Boss Radio, a weekly podcast that offers actionable advice and authentic stories to support women in their financial journey. She has an MBA and she's a certified financial planner. She's a TEDx speaker and she's been featured in the Wall Street Journal, NBC, ABC, Fox, Daily Worth, Forbes, and even Investopedia. She was recognized as a top 40 under 40 entrepreneur in Silicon Valley with more than 30 television appearances. She's the go-to personal finance expert in Silicon Valley for the NBC Evening News, where they call her the investor's voice of reason. Welcome to Get Rich Education, Hilary Hendershott.
Thank you, Keith. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great having you here. Hilary joins me from San Jose, California today. So, Hilary, a lot of people have these limiting mindsets about money, which is kind of funny because money is in an infinite supply. What are your thoughts?
Isn't it? I know. So actually, the truth is, Keith, we all have a limiting belief about money. The definition of to describe is to draw a circle around. So when you describe something, when you describe money, you draw a circle around it, meaning you've left out everything that's not in the circle. And let me say a little bit more about that. First of all, I have a technical education in investments, the stock market, economics. I was working as a investments manager, working for multimillionaires during the day, advising them on their portfolios, and going home at night to a stack of bills that I couldn't pay. And it was my financial situation, my personal financial situation came to a head. There was one day I literally pulled my convertible BMW into the Chevron station. I put my credit card in the machine to get some gas, and it got declined. My next card was declined, and the next card was declined. And I finally had to admit that I had spent everything in my checking accounts. I, at the time, had one of those mortgages. You remember the negatively amortizing loans that people were doing. So I had one of those mortgages where the payment would go up every month. My income wasn't going up enough to support it. So I was embarrassed. I felt like a failure. So I had drained my 401k and my retirement accounts paying for this mortgage. And finally, the plates were no longer spinning and came crashing down. I had to do the walk of shame home from that Chevron station because I couldn't afford to put gas in my BMW. And I said to myself, this juxtaposition of me having all this technical education and understanding the stock market and being a financial failure, literally a financial failure, it doesn't make sense to me. And so I'm going to figure it out. This isn't the end for me. And at that time, I became an expert on behavioral finance, the psychology of money. I read everything I could get my hands on the topic of neuropsychology. And circling back to what you kicked off the conversation with, which is money beliefs that don't match reality, that is really the core of what I discovered is that neuroscientists, they're already talking about. The funny thing is academicians, like people in the ivory tower at good universities, already have the answers to a lot of questions that we struggle with. They don't disseminate them in really great, effective ways. So it's kind of up to us to go find out, hey, what are you working on? But these neuroscientists have already documented the degree to which, now this is going to be a little bit hard to grasp at first, but we as human beings believe that our language, when you describe something with your words come after reality. So I'm describing something that's already there. For example, the coffee mug I'm looking at on my desk is black. That's real. But when I say money doesn't grow on trees, I think I'm describing reality when in fact I'm creating my reality.
Right.
And this is especially powerful when it comes to things that are very conceptual. So you mentioned in the pre-interview chat, time, the concept of time. Time is a concept. Time doesn't have the features of reality like distance and form and mass, and neither does money. We made money up. Human beings made it up first as a solution to the problem economists call a double coincidence of wants. So if I want to trade with Keith and Keith has a snowball that I want because he's in Anchorage, Alaska, and I want Keith's snowball, and then Keith has to find something that I have that he wants in order for us to barter. And so I have a bicycle and a Tesla, and he says, no, I don't want those things. So then we need something else that I can trade. So we made up currency so that would represent value. And then we forgot that we made it up. And people are basically crazy about money. So most of the things we believe, and if you're listening to this show, you're not exempt from this, I promise you. Most of the things you believe about money are just superstitions. They're not true. Money's a blank slate. Money is just a conversation. Some people say money is energy. So I have people on my podcast that sometimes they come on and they say money is energy. I've never related to that particular statement, but it doesn't disagree with the statement that money is just a conversation. Literally, it's a promise. So first of all, your greenbacks are not money. You can't even buy a cocktail with a $10 bill on a commercial airline flight. They don't accept it. Therefore, you know that's not money, right? And there's no actual money in your credit cards. The only thing in your bank account is bits and bytes. That's digital. So money is just a promise that you can exchange later for something that you value. That's it. But yet we have all these beliefs about money that come from our childhood. And so really, Keith, I was able to understand my own money psychology, the beliefs that I had. By the way, the one I had was there's never enough money. And I was able to see that for what it was. I was able to see the actions and systems in reality that I had put into place that kept that true in my life. It had made me an overspender. So when you believe there's never enough money, when money comes into your life, you have to spend it. You have to get it out of your ecosystem, because when you have money in your bank account, it's like your brain's like, it does not compute. It does not compute because there's money. By the way, this explains, we've all heard of lottery winners who go broke after they receive their windfall financially.
Right.
In most cases, worse off than they were before they won the money.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see what happens to people when they don't have the right mindset about money, but they get a big lump sum of money in a windfall, like a lottery winner or like someone that just got drafted in the NFL from college.
Yes, exactly. And we think of those people as uneducated or irresponsible. And I no longer think that. I think that those people are imprinted with a particular money, what I call a money operating system. They're literally programmed by a computer. It's unconscious until you make it conscious. You can make it conscious. But if you're listening to this show and you're not having the financial results that you want, I can promise you that it has to do with that deep-seated superstition or money operating system, like a script that you believe to be true about money.
Yeah, it makes sense that money is so based on our beliefs, because money, like you say, really it's not quite a tangible thing. It really is more of an idea. And money, or currency, if you will, doesn't have any intrinsic value. It's just backed by faith. And faith is something intangible.
Exactly. It's an agreement. And if all Americans stopped abiding by the agreement of money as barter, it would be gone. It would have no more value. And so it's something that persists and has a network effect, because we all accept and abide by the agreements of money. You too, Keith. At some point, you were young and you were just learning about this thing adults called money, and you saw something or reacted to something, or maybe you took on something that an adult said about money, and that became defining for you. That each one of you listening to this show has a different thing that you believe about money. I'll just give you some examples. In my opinion, I haven't done any technical research on this, but in my opinion, the most common money operating system is that there's never enough money.
Right.
And how you know if you got this one is look at your results, look at your bank accounts, look at what you say about money, right? It's obvious if there's never enough money to do the things that you want to do. Another one, for example, is money is complicated. And if your money operating system is money is complicated, then you probably fight with your family or your spouse about money. You probably either do some lying or deception about money. There's probably drama in your life about money. Another one is money is the root of all evil. This is a popular one. And if you have this one and you're listening to the show, it's because you're very conflicted, because you both experience wanting wealth and believing that people who are wealthy are bad or evil or greedy. And that's very hard to internalize.
Yeah, the person that keyed my Mercedes must think money's the root of all evil.
Well, Yes, exactly. He clearly does not want you to have money because he doesn't.
Exactly.
Another one is, if I'm good, the universe will provide for me. So this is a really innocent sort of way of being about money. I like positive worldviews. Like, I very much think positive thinking is a great thing. However, unfortunately, these people have money conflated with morality, and money has absolutely nothing to do with morality. When you believe that if you're good, the universe will provide, you typically don't do productive things like saving and investing.
Yeah, I actually used to think that way, money will just be provided if you do good. But, I think that was kind of a relative naivete that was playing into things there. I think I've since learned that, no, you can kind of take this into your own hands and steer it your own way. That's what's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I would guess because of the fact that you host a show that essentially is about wealth production, that you have some more sophisticated beliefs that have become real for you about money. So that's normal. Again, you can't transcend these superstitions, but a lot of people find themselves really stuck in them. And then just to provide contrast, the money operating systems I've talked about have been kind of negative, kind of scarcity, like it's not going to work out kind of systems.
Right.
Let's look at something that might seem really positive. So there are people who have the money operating system. There's always enough money. And that seems like, oh, okay, so if I'm going to manifest there's always enough money in my life, then there's going to be, positive cash flow. There's going to be savings happening. And there is. However, people with that money operating system do need to be careful that they actually dig into the numbers, because no matter what the numbers are, they're going to be positive, but they might not be positive enough. I'll give you an example. I got a phone call from someone one time, and I could just tell from the way this person was talking. She was so proud of herself for having retired early. She was 58 years old, and she was so excited to start her retirement, and she wanted to know how she should invest her $120,000 of retirement savings.
Oh boy.
It broke my heart to say to her, actually, my advice to you is that you go back to work. $120,000 is not going to provide for the probably 35 to 40 years of retirement that you have ahead of you. And so that's an example of what seems like a positive money operating system leaving people deceived. I mean, superstitions leave people deceived, right? So whatever your money operating system is, I encourage you to figure out what that is. If it's not obvious to you from this conversation, you might pick up my ebook, which is on my homepage at hilaryhendershott.com. I don't know, Keith, if you want to put that in the show notes or whatever, but it's right on my homepage, and there's kind of a questionnaire at the end of it, and you just answer those questions off the cuff, your first natural answer, and by the end, those questions are designed to help you really understand what is that core belief that's driving you.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes. Yeah, we don't have enough people out there that have the money operating system where theirs is saying there's always enough money in life. That's like I say, the scarcity mentality is abundant and the abundance mentality is scarce. That's the minority of people that say that there. So you discussed about 5 of these money operating systems. Do you think that society spends, too much time emphasizing money? Because it's emphasized so much, yet I think the person we interact with the most about money really is ourselves and the time that we spend thinking about it. I just wonder if people emphasize it too much. I had someone not long ago ask me, how much money did I spend for this Nike warm-up outfit that I was wearing when I was heading to the gym? And I was like, I don't know. I don't really remember what I spent on that. It was maybe around $100 or something. So I think people emphasize money so much. People commonly say things like they remember how much they paid for an item like 3 years ago. Like they assign that number. $89.99 is how much that Nike outfit cost a few years ago. I think they associate so deeply with it, and it might just be the scarcity-minded people that do that. I don't know, but do you think people emphasize money too much?
I live a very skewed life. I mean, I talk about money all day long. Not only that, so I'm an investments manager. I run a money-related podcast. My husband is a finance professor who runs a hedge fund. I think my whole life is about money and the productive management of money. So maybe I'm not a good person to ask. I would say maybe possibly that if you're running to the gym in a $100 tracksuit in Anchorage, that might be a little different than me running to the gym in a $100 tracksuit in San Jose, just because where I live it drips with wealth by definition. So I don't know. There's talk about money that's actually valuable, and there's talk about money that isn't. So spending time remembering what you bought 3 years ago is useless. That's not going to help you with anything. Just to draw some contrast too, that I used to write consistently on a platform called dailyworth.com, which is a website for women and money. And the CEO of that company, Amanda Steinberg, told me that if they print more than 25% personal finance and investment related content, women stop reading.
Wow.
Just drop off precipitously. So they would publish lifestyle and life coaching and all sorts of other content to sort of package around and make the money conversation palatable, because women as a gender, and you listening maybe into the exception to this, but women do not have a culture of talking about money or dealing with money or managing money or growing wealth like that. So that's part of what I've tried to do with Profit Boss Radio, is to normalize that for women, to have it be a place where women can talk about money.
Well, I don't know if a $100 tracksuit stands out in Anchorage, Alaska or not, but I can tell you what, I think an E-Class Mercedes did, and that's why it got keyed. When Hilary and I come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about how women think differently than men. You're listening to Get Rich Education. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. We'll be right back.
Are you on track to achieve your financial goals? Income-producing real estate is the most historically proven way to accumulate wealth and has created more financial freedom than any other means. Norada Real Estate provides everything you need to invest in the best turnkey cash flow rental properties. Our simple, proven system will help you create real wealth and passive monthly income. Get your free strategy session with our knowledgeable investment counselors at noradarealestate.com. That's NORADA realestate.com.
As a lot of investors know, multifamily real estate has been one of the best asset classes to be invested in most of the last decade. While the great deals have been harder to find lately, there are still opportunities in select markets where savvy investors can get lots of appreciation and strong cash flow if you have a great team. Dave Zook, founder and president of The Real Asset Investor, and his team have been very active in the multifamily space in Memphis, Tennessee. On the heels of the Great Recession of 2009, Dave and his team quietly started acquiring multifamily assets, and in the last few years, he has syndicated over 2,000 apartment units, creating strong cash flow streams and big appreciation for lots of their investors. It's not too late to get involved. If you're an accredited investor and you would like to learn more about investing in great multifamily apartments with a world-class team, email Dave and his team at info@therealassetinvestor.com.
Hi, this is Russell Gray, co-host of the Real Estate Guys radio show, and you're listening to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education with our guest, Hilary Hendershott. Hilary, how do women think about money differently than the way that men think about money?
I think a couple things. First of all, many women resist wealth and wealth building because somehow we conflate wealth building with power, and women are largely, I think, ambivalent about power, or they think it's unfeminine. A lot of times when you talk to a woman, for example, who earns more money than her husband or partner, she's afraid that he is not going to feel like a man, or she's resentful that she has that role. And so we're sort of grappling for equal standing as it regards wealth. And part of my mission and platform is to really empower women to have their own money and grow their own money and invest their own money, whether that be in real estate or the stock market. And another thing is that women tend to be buy and hold investors. When you do get a woman invested, she thinks she doesn't know how to manage the investment, and so she leaves it alone. And depending on what kind of investment strategy you've got, when it comes to the stock market, buy and hold tends to be the right way to go. So the data that we have says that actually when you compare the average man's results, who men tend to buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell, to the average woman's results, women tend to outperform men. And that specifically, again, is in the stock market. You're advocating some buy and hold real estate investing as well. And so I like to say to women, hey, you're doing better than you think you are.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I think men are more okay with taking on risk and investing than women are. And, it makes a lot of sense to me that I think men get so into investing that they would trade into something and trade out of something a lot more often when it comes to stocks, whereas women are just more okay with kind of being complacent and being passive. But that probably is where they get better returns. I can believe that women get better returns than men from the stock market a lot of times, because what happens when you buy and sell a lot? You're more likely to be affected by emotions and buy and sell at exactly the wrong time. When the market runs up, you kind of get bathed in this media bath of, hey, everyone's making money. You're going to have fear of missing out, and you're going to buy high. And then the opposite thing happens. You're going to sell low just when you shouldn't. So yeah, I'm actually not surprised that women can beat men in the stock market.
Yeah, that's very insightful of you, Keith. And I just read an article the other week about the difference between published mutual fund returns and actual earned returns. So for example, to earn the returns of a mutual fund, you need to stay invested in it for the whole year. One fund specifically, a Morningstar reported fund, had returns of 4% last year. But the average investor who invested in that fund received negative 15% returns.
Wow.
For exactly the reason you just articulated, which is that our emotions lead us to do the opposite of the number one rule of investing. What we do is we buy high and we sell low. So that's part of what coaches and investment managers like you and me can help people do better.
Yeah, that individual investor behavior right there, that's sort of a microcosm for the reason that actively managed funds often don't beat the returns of the S&P 500 or the Russell 2000.
Exactly.
So you advise a lot of clients, and I can imagine that, you have some that are interested in real estate investing. Some are probably trying to get counseled on, now, should I pay off my own home's mortgage or not? And then you have others that might be invested in what we do, passive real estate investing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think real estate is a tremendous asset class. I think that it provides good diversification to a globally diversified portfolio, and that if you can get your hands on cash flowing real estate, that's a fantastic way to produce wealth for yourself. It was, for example, during the financial crisis that Warren Buffett said, if I could, I would buy thousands of homes right now, because there was a real opportunity to buy. And at this point, looking in retrospect, we can see that many people who did have what you might call dry powder to invest in residential real estate at the bottom of the market, those people have had tremendous returns between then and now. I have to be careful what I say. So don't take anything I say today as customized investment advice. If I don't know you, you're not a client. It's not individualized advice. But I do see a lot of positive returns in private limited partnerships, and especially professional managers who are investing in multifamily or apartment buildings, essentially. And so those are some of the ways I've seen people make a lot of money in real estate. I mean, there's obviously commercial real estate. You talk a lot about residential real estate.
Yeah, we talk a lot about residential real estate and not so much stocks. The thing with residential real estate, Hilary, is I just think it's so forgiving. A lot of people don't understand all the ways that real estate investors pay. The stock investors typically paid one way or maybe two ways. If it's a dividend-paying stock, they'll get both a capital gain and a dividend. But with real estate investing, you effectively have 5 profit centers at the same time. Number 1's appreciation, often leverage appreciation. Number 2's cash flow. Number 3's loan pay down made by somebody else, your tenant. Number 4 is amazing tax advantages. And then the 5th one is that inflation hedging benefit when we take out long-term fixed interest rate debt. So I think real estate's a really forgiving asset class. Okay, so for example, if you don't get the appreciation that you wanted on a property, you still have 4 other profit centers.
Yeah, one thing I will say is the tax benefits you mentioned are in large part depreciation. So one really amazing tip is a lot of people, when they get that depreciation, it feels like a windfall on your tax returns, that instead of spending it, I encourage you, and I'm sure you would encourage them to do what's wise and invest it in their future, whether that be in a savings account for their next down payment on a piece of property or something like that. Otherwise, the benefit really disappears. And that's what I see a lot, unfortunately, and I coach people about when I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't understand the value of that tax depreciation that you get. But the magic of depreciation is the fact that you didn't have to spend any money in order to get that benefit. A lot of times, if you do qualify for a tax deduction, well, you might have had to spend $5,000 and then say, 25% of that $5,000 is effectively written off if that's your marginal income tax rate. But you didn't have to spend any money. You didn't have to spend that $5,000. And basically, the effect is that you don't even have to pay tax on all of your rent income.
That's right. And ultimately, as you know, that depreciation will be recaptured at the sale of the property. And so you want to make sure you have the cash on hand in terms of capital gains. That's another reason you and I agreed at the beginning of this, in the pre-record chat, is California is probably a terrible place to buy real estate because our capital gains are just punitive.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It is definitely of an advantage to me that I do live in a no income tax state.
Yes.
That's a great thing that you bring up about the depreciation recapture. That's something that hasn't been mentioned on our show for a while. And when you've been writing off that depreciation on your property for a number of years and you owe that at the time of sale, you better have your act together and you better look at doing a 1031 tax deferred exchange. And that way you can defer that depreciation recapture effectively infinitely. So, Hilary, any final thoughts that you have with wealth mindset or actionable strategies or women versus men investing for our audience?
Sure. I would say if you're listening to this show, kudos to you for being in a wealth building mindset. If you're interested in this conversation and thinking about or actually doing real estate investing, that you're one step ahead of the pack. That if you have room in your podcast lineup and you're a woman and you feel like you may want some more emotional or more nuanced conversation, kind of talking about the money operating systems that we've discussed, and you want to check out Profit Boss Radio, I'd love to have you as a listener. Either way, my message to you is that if I can turn my life around, you can too, that no matter where you are, the wealth and freedom that you want is definitely possible.
Yeah, because it was pretty difficult for you to believe that money is in infinite supply when every credit card you had kept getting rejected for your car repairs.
Brutal.
Hilary, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on to Get Rich Education.
Thanks, Keith.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I heard some of those phrases like money doesn't grow on trees as well. My parents never did say that, who do you think we are, the Rockefellers thing. You know, I often have heard throughout my life that money is the root of all evil. See, that's a really confusing one to hear, like Hilary and I touched on. See, when you hear money is the root of all evil, now you become conflicted because you want wealth, but then you hear that having it is bad. Well, I've got one possible solution for you. Maybe this is meaningful to you and maybe it won't be, but that whole money is the root of all evil, that saying is something that many people believe comes from the Bible. That's actually something that Harv Eker and I touched on one time when he was here. So I just looked it up myself. This is a saying that a lot of us learn from our parents, whether or not they're specifically citing the Bible, but it is in the New Testament of the Bible. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, it reads this: "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil." Okay, that's the verse. For the love of money. Here at GRE, we talk about not loving money and not even loving real estate investing, but it's about what opening up that time with passive income can do for us, providing us with that freedom and that fulfillment. That's what we love, coming from a place of contribution. You provide, you contribute that clean, safe, functional housing for others, and you've come from a place of contribution. So our money mindset is a set of thoughts, and that's really important because thoughts become words. Words form your actions, and your actions create your patterns, and your patterns make up who you really are. Investing-wise, women are more conservative than men. Women tend to participate in employer-sponsored retirement plans more than men. Women are more likely to be savers. Men are more likely to take risk. There was actually a survey by BlackRock that found that women have a greater portion of their portfolios in cash and that few are willing to seek out risk to get those higher returns. Women are also more likely to use professionally managed accounts, and men are more likely to seek more direct control over their money. So, well, we've had a lot of new Get Rich Education listeners lately. Some of the more popular episodes from the last few months that new listeners like to know about is Robert Kiyosaki and I's chat in episode 84, Ken McElroy and I in episode 86, and T. Harv Eker and I's chat in episode 104. And, you know, a lot of people keep pointing to my chat with Get Rich Education's own business developer, John Collins, as one of their favorite episodes, where John just tells me and describes how he walked away from a job that paid him between $100,000 to $200,000 per year. And he didn't just quit and go to another job. He just quit. He just simply got sick and tired of selling his time for money and trading his time for dollars. That's episode 106. I know most of you are longtime listeners. Some of you have listened to all 121 episodes, and I just can't even tell you how much I appreciate that. It's really sort of humbling. Yep, that includes episode number 1 from October 2014 that I recorded from an Anchorage, Alaska dining room table in my home on a $60 USB microphone. Well, next week, for the first time ever, we're going to talk about resort investing in a warm climate. Can you create cash flow that way? Do you have a nicer resident or tenant to deal with that way? Is it nicer for you to visit that property yourself? Can you stay in the property yourself? So it's just practical to explore that. We'll see if an investment that you can make cash flow can also bring you some lifestyle enjoyment so that you can use it yourself. Hey, thanks to our great guest today, Hilary Hendershott. Check out her resources. For my developers, John Collins and Marcus Whelan, sound engineer Vidran Jampo, GetRichEducation.com's web developer Nikon Roy, I'm your host Keith Weinhold. Until next week and always, don't quit your daydream.
You've been listening to Get Rich Education, telling you what the wealthy won't tell you about real estate and investing.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
Cash flow real estate investors nationwide and worldwide, this is Get Rich Education's Keith Weinhold. Forbes has rated Memphis, Tennessee as the #1 cash flowing market in the world. Our good friends at Mid-South Homebuyers have been Memphis's premier turnkey real estate provider for 14 years with a stellar reputation and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Owner Terry Kerr was born and raised in Memphis. Yeah, he knows the market and has renovated and sold over 1,000 houses in the Memphis area. Find out what their many repeat buyers already know. Their houses are completely renovated, even come with a 1-year builder's warranty and a lifelong rental guarantee. They're a perfect fit for the first-time out-of-state investor or the seasoned investor diversifying their portfolio. Mid-South Homebuyers' friendly staff makes investing easy. Learn more at midsouthhomebuyers.com or give them a call at 901-217-HOME. The preceding program was brought to you by your home for wealth building, GetRichEducation.com.